Bist. A human engineer is given the galaxy's biggest warship, and freezes the instant he steps inside. Eli Mercer had spent most of his life surrounded by machines. He had taken apart gadgets, repaired engines, and built small robots in his cluttered workshop on Earth. Humans might not have been the most advanced species in the galaxy, but Eli had learned one thing: a clever mind could solve almost anything. Still, nothing in his life had prepared him for what was coming. It started with a message. Brett. At first, Eli thought it was a joke. The Galactic Council had contacted him directly, summoning him to the neutral station of Orbis. This was the hub where representatives from dozens of alien races gathered. To receive a personal summons from them was rare enough, but the note had included a phrase that made Eli's stomach tighten.
Your skills are required for a task unlike any other.
You will not fail. You will not refuse.
He had laughed nervously at first. Surely they meant some technical consultation, not him personally.
But the Council was not joking. Within hours, a transport ship had arrived at his small workshop, and Eli found himself whisked away from Earth, leaving behind everything he had ever known. When the transport landed, Eli was greeted by a chamber larger than any hall he had ever seen. Towering crystal-like structures glowed with light, and the air hummed faintly, as if the station itself was alive. He was led through corridors that seemed to bend in impossible ways, alien symbols floating along the walls like living graffiti. Finally, he entered the council hall. It was breathtaking. Hundreds of alien delegates were seated around a circular platform, each species more astonishing than the last. Bert. Some had multiple eyes. Some seemed made entirely of light. Others shifted shapes as they breathed. And at the center, the ship of Eli's dreams, or nightmares, waited.
It was the Leviathan! Eli froze!
But he had heard rumors of its size, of course. But seeing it in person made those rumors pale. The ship was enormous, stretching almost a kilometer long. Its hull shimmered with a strange alloy, alien yet strangely organic. Intricate patterns crawled across its surface, shifting like scales on a living creature. The sheer scale of it made his head spin. A single gun turret could have destroyed a small city. Its engines could jump entire star systems in hours.
And now they wanted him to command it. The Grand Ambassador, a massive creature with 4 arms and translucent skin that shimmered like water, stepped forward. "Eli Mercer," it said in a voice that seemed to come from every direction at once. "You have been chosen because no one else could understand this vessel."
It is a machine of infinite complexity. It will respond to intelligence, creativity, and courage. It will resist arrogance and fear. You will not only operate it, you will awaken it. Breaths went dry.
"Awaken it?"
he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The ambassador smiled, or at least what Eli assumed was a smile. "The Leviathan is not just a ship. It is a mind. It will not follow orders blindly. Only one who can think like it, adapt, and innovate will succeed."
Humans have shown remarkable creativity in the face of impossible odds.
That is why you were chosen. Eli wanted to protest. He wasn't ready. He wasn't qualified. But the council didn't give him time. A simple gesture, and the massive doors of the Leviathan opened. Light spilled out, blinding in its intensity. Eli stepped forward, his legs shaking. The moment he set foot inside the Leviathan, his mind went blank. The interior was a maze of glowing panels, holographic displays, and corridors that seemed impossibly long. The air smelled faintly metallic, and yet there was a warmth to it, like the ship was alive. Machines whirred softly, responding to his presence. Eli froze. He couldn't move. His hands twitched, his mind racing faster than he could control.
This was no ordinary ship. It wasn't just advanced. It was intelligent.
Every panel seemed to observe him. Every corridor seemed to adjust as he looked around. The ambassador's voice echoed in his head, calm but firm. Do not fear. The Leviathan will test you. It will show you its complexity. You must understand it, or it may reject you. Eli swallowed hard and took another step. The deck beneath his feet hummed as if recognizing him. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing star charts, system logs, and what appeared to be complex energy flows. Symbols danced in patterns he couldn't immediately decipher. He walked toward a central console. It was massive, almost like a control room had grown into the size of a cathedral. Panels responded to his touch, lights flowing in streams, data unfolding like ribbons of light. Eli's mind raced. Darius. Every system he touched seemed to respond differently. Some panels accepted his commands. Others resisted, almost testing him. And then he heard it, a soft, melodic hum, as if the ship itself was singing. Eli froze again.
Be as
But the hum grew louder, responding to his presence. The ship. It was alive. Not biologically, but in a way that felt almost alive. It was thinking, waiting, watching. Do you understand, human? The ambassador asked, though the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. This ship has not been controlled for centuries. It waits for one mind that can think beyond standard protocols. Can you do it? Ellie shook his head, unsure if he should nod or speak. Brace. I don't know, he admitted.
Good, the ambassador replied.
It is not a weakness. Doubt is part of intelligence. Understand it, and it will respond to you. Fail, and you may be trapped within it. Eli took a deep breath and pressed a panel. The ship reacted instantly. The walls shifted, displays rearranged themselves, and a corridor opened that hadn't been there before. The Leviathan was testing him, nudging him toward understanding. Every instinct in Eli screamed that he was out of his depth. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange inside the Leviathan. Eli explored, touching controls, tracing energy flows, and watching holographic schematics that seemed to adapt to his thoughts. Slowly, he realized something astonishing. The ship wasn't just complex, it responded to creativity. When he tried a new approach, the panels glowed more brightly, systems aligning. When he hesitated, they dimmed. Breath. And then came the first real test. A warning flashed on one of the central displays. Approaching unknown trajectory. Manual override required. Before Eli could process, the ship shuddered. Engines roared softly, vibrating through the floor. The Leviathan was moving, on its own, toward the edge of known space. Eli froze. His mind screamed at him to stop it, but he didn't know how. Panels blinked in streams of alien symbols. Energy flows dancing unpredictably. The ship wasn't just moving, it was choosing its path, and he had to make it understand him. Ellie Mercer! The ambassador's voice echoed. Do not panic! Bust. Let the Leviathan see your mind. Work with it. Not against it. Eli clenched his fists, forcing himself to calm down. He thought about energy, flow, balance, structure, the same things he had always used in his engineering work. Slowly, Almost experimentally, he reached out to the console. A wave of recognition passed through the ship. Systems realigned. Lights shifted. Energy flows corrected themselves. The Leviathan seemed to accept him. Eli breathed. For the first time, he felt the thrill he had always sought, the feeling of being truly alive in the presence of something greater than himself. But the thrill was cut short. Sensors beeped furiously. A fleet of unknown ships was approaching rapidly. Eli's stomach dropped. The Council hadn't warned him about this. Whatever was out there, they weren't friendly. And he wasn't sure he was ready to face them. But deep inside, he felt a spark. This was his element. Not the calm of a workshop, not the safety of Earth, but the chaos of something bigger than him, the challenge that would test every skill he had ever learned. Ellie squared his shoulders and said aloud, though no one could hear him except the Leviathan, "Okay, let's see what you've got." The ship hummed louder, as if acknowledging the command. And for the first time, Eli felt that maybe, just maybe, humans could rise to meet the galaxy's greatest challenges. Eli Mercer's hands hovered over the holographic console as the Leviathan hummed beneath his feet. The ship's movement had stabilized for the moment, but the alert lights continued to blink, each one more urgent than the last. The unknown fleet was approaching, and Eli had no idea what they wanted, or if they intended to destroy him on sight. For a moment he felt panic rising. He had worked on complex engines, built robots that could think, and even redesigned interstellar transport systems, but nothing had prepared him for commanding the galaxy's largest warship against an entire fleet. His mind raced as he tried to process the readings. Hundreds of ships were moving toward him, thousands of miles away, yet already powerful enough to overwhelm the Leviathan if given the chance. The ship pulsed under him, almost as if sensing his fear. Eli took a deep breath and forced himself to focus. Panic would get him nowhere. This ship, this living machine, responded to creativity, not fear. He started by examining the fleet's formation. The display labeled them only as unknown, but their shapes were familiar enough. Sleek, angular warships, armed with energy cannons, far larger than any human vessel. He could see the pattern of their approach. They were trying to surround him. Standard military tactics. Predictable. Eli's lips curved into a small, nervous smile. Predictable was something humans could handle. Humans had survived countless disasters, wars, and crises by thinking outside the box. He tapped the nearest console. The Leviathan responded immediately, lights flowing down the corridors like electricity through veins. Holographic panels rearranged themselves, displaying energy signatures and weapon status. Eli noticed something almost instinctual. The ship's weapons were powered but inactive. The Leviathan wasn't aggressive. It was waiting.
It didn't attack until it understood the mind controlling it.
Okay, Eli muttered to himself. Let's see if I can teach you how humans think. First, he tested the ship's mobility.
The Leviathan was enormous, but Eli realized he could use its mass as an advantage. He rerouted energy to the engines in a non-standard configuration, something the aliens who designed it likely never imagined. The ship shuddered, then slid sideways, making a movement that confused the approaching fleet. Sensors on the alien ships blinked rapidly. They weren't expecting such maneuvering. Eli's confidence grew slightly. Humans were clever. They could improvise. And the Leviathan. It was clever, too. Working together, they might just survive. Next came the weapons. The Leviathan had hundreds of cannons, energy projectors, and missile arrays. Each one was a puzzle, responding to mental commands rather than simple buttons. Eli realized the first rule. Don't use brute force. Blowing everything up would drain the ship's energy too quickly and leave them vulnerable. Instead, he started experimenting. He tapped a panel, rerouting energy to the shields while simultaneously configuring the cannons to fire in a pattern that created holographic duplicates of the ship's signature. The approaching fleet would see dozens of Leviathans instead of one. He added subtle energy pulses to make the illusions move, giving the impression that the ship was splitting, multiplying, and dancing unpredictably in space. The sensors on the alien fleet went haywire. Their approach faltered, and some ships began breaking formation. Eli felt a thrill.
Humans could think like this. Humans could turn panic into advantage.
But the challenge wasn't over. The unknown fleet began recalibrating, learning from his trick. Eli realized he needed to do more than just create illusions. He had to anticipate their attacks, outthink them before they outgunned him. It turned to the Leviathan's secondary systems: gravity manipulators, energy conduits, and temporal stabilizers. No human had ever used them in combat before. They were designed to stabilize the ship during interstellar jumps, not as weapons. But Eli had an idea. He rerouted the gravity systems in a localized field, creating pockets of artificial gravity that tugged at enemy ships unpredictably. Some ships slowed, others veered off course entirely, and one even collided with another. Chaos spread through the fleet. Eli had turned their precision into disorder. "Not bad," he muttered, a hint of pride in his voice. The Leviathan responded with a low, melodic hum, as if acknowledging his efforts. For the first time, Eli felt like he was partnership with the ship rather than trapped inside it. But just as he began to feel in control, the displays flickered. A warning flashed across the main panel. "Energy overload imminent. Primary systems critical." Eli's stomach sank. The Leviathan's systems were straining under the improvisations. If he pushed too hard, the ship could self-destruct. He paused and thought carefully. Humans were resourceful, but they also had limits. He needed to balance creativity with caution. Slowly, he redistributed power, diverting energy from the duplicate signature generators to the shields and propulsion. The Leviathan's hum steadied, and the energy warning disappeared. Then came the first real challenge: communication. A strange signal appeared on the display, a series of pulses and tones. Alien language, but not hostile yet. Eli realized the fleet was trying to negotiate or intimidate. He hesitated. He could respond, but how? The ship could translate thought into signal, but he wasn't sure how the aliens would interpret human intent. Eli closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He focused on the core principle of human communication: clarity, intent, and emotion. He reached out with his mind, guiding the Leviathan to send a simple signal, a visual display of the ship's size, power, and readiness, paired with an abstract pattern of energy pulses suggesting intelligence rather than aggression. The alien fleet slowed. Confusion rippled through their formation. They hadn't expected a single human to control the galaxy's largest warship with such precision and logic. Eli smiled faintly. Humans might be underestimated, but humans could adapt. Hours, or what felt like hours, passed as Eli continued to improvise. He dodged attacks, manipulated energy fields, and kept the fleet at bay without destroying a single ship. The Leviathan seemed to respond to his every move, almost as if it was learning from him as much as he was learning from it. But the pressure was mounting. The fleet began to split, sending smaller groups to flank him. Eli realized that if he didn't act fast, he could be trapped. He needed something drastic. He accessed the Leviathan's central energy core, a vast lattice of alien tech pulsing with raw power. Normally, such power was only tapped in emergencies. But Eli had an idea. Bad.
Using a combination of shields, gravity manipulation, and energy reflection, he redirected a portion of the core's power into creating a massive decoy, a false image of the Leviathan accelerating away from the real ship. The alien fleet took the bait. Their attention shifted entirely to the decoy, and the Leviathan, under Ellie's guidance, slipped through the gaps in their formation. Ellie's heart raced. Despair. He had done it. Humans had survived an encounter that could have destroyed them. But he knew this was just the beginning. The unknown fleet was still out there, and now they would hate him for outsmarting them. He slumped into a seat, exhausted but exhilarated. The Leviathan's hum was softer now, more melodic, almost like it was communicating approval. Eli realized that in this strange living machine, humans had a unique advantage, the ability to think unpredictably, creatively, and with intuition. The aliens would come again, stronger and more prepared. Eli had proven humans could survive, but the galaxy had only begun to notice Earth. He leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. "Okay," he whispered. "Let's see what comes next." The Leviathan's hum resonated through the ship, a gentle affirmation. Eli understood now that this was no ordinary vessel. It was a test, a partner, and a weapon all in one. And if he could master it, humans could achieve things no one in the galaxy had imagined. But as the stars stretched past the observation window, Eli couldn't shake the feeling that the next challenge would be even harder. Somewhere, in the vast expanse of space, the unknown fleet would regroup, and when they did, he would have to be ready. Not just with machines, but with the one thing humans had always relied on: ingenuity. Eli Mercer smiled faintly, a spark of determination lighting his eyes. The Leviathan waited, the galaxy watched, and humanity's story was only beginning. Eli Mercer sat on the bridge of the Leviathan, staring out at the stars streaking past the observation window. The unknown fleet had retreated, but he knew it was only a temporary victory. Every instinct in him screamed that they would return stronger, better prepared, and angrier than before. Humans had survived this encounter, but survival wasn't enough. Humans needed to win. He tapped a control panel, pulling up the ship's status. Perhaps. Systems were stable, energy flowing evenly, and the Leviathan hummed softly beneath him, almost like a living heartbeat. He could feel the ship responding to him now, not just following commands, but learning from him, anticipating his moves. The realization sent a thrill through his chest. Humans might be small compared to the galaxy's giants, but with ingenuity and adaptability, they could outthink anyone. The first step was to understand the fleet's strategy. Eli replayed the encounter using the Leviathan sensors, analyzing every movement of the alien ships. They had tried to surround him, predict his path, and force him into traps, but they had failed. Their tactics were rigid, programmed, and predictable. Humans, by contrast, thrived in chaos, improvising solutions that no one else could foresee. Ellie smiled faintly. He had an idea. He began working on the ship's energy reflection systems. The Leviathan had shields that could absorb attacks, but Eli realized he could take it further. By carefully calibrating the energy conduits, he could redirect incoming fire back at the fleet, not randomly, but in precise patterns to disrupt their formations. If done correctly, the fleet's own weapons could destroy them. Hours passed as Eli worked, every adjustment precise. The Leviathan responded like a partner, its systems flowing in harmony with his thoughts. Panels lit up as energy rerouted, shields strengthened, and cannons aligned. The ship was learning, too, adapting to Eli's unconventional thinking. Finally, the moment came to test it. Dissonance. Sensors detected a probe ship from the fleet moving cautiously back into the system, likely scouting. Eli held his breath and focused on the control panel. The Leviathan hummed, almost excited. With a flick of his hand, the probe fired, and the energy reflection system activated. The beam hit the shield, then returned perfectly toward the probe. In moments, the probe disintegrated, leaving the fleet stunned. Eli's grin widened. Humans could turn the enemy's strength against them, and now it was time to escalate. He accessed the ship's gravity manipulation systems next. Instead of using them defensively, he decided to use them as weapons. By creating controlled gravitational anomalies, he could pull small sections of the fleet out of formation, forcing collisions and chaos. It was risky. One wrong calculation and the Leviathan itself could be caught in the gravitational field. But Eli trusted his instincts. Humans had survived impossible odds before. The first anomaly worked perfectly. An alien destroyer veered off course, colliding with another, sending both tumbling helplessly through space. Sensors reported multiple enemy ships faltering, and the fleet hesitated, unsure how to respond. Eli's mind raced with possibilities. He could turn confusion into advantage, strike at their weaknesses, and prove that humans were not to be underestimated. Then came the biggest opportunity yet. The Leviathan's Central Command Override Console, a mysterious interface deep within the ship. According to alien legends, this console could unlock the full power of the Leviathan, but it was highly dangerous. One mistake could destroy the ship entirely. Eli stared at it, heart pounding. Every engineer in him screamed caution. But another part, the part that made humans capable of extraordinary things, urged him forward.
He had survived this far because he trusted his instincts.
He had adapted when others would panic. He would not back down now. He activated the console. Lights flared, panels shifted, and a low, resonant hum filled the bridge. The Leviathan pulsed as if waking from a long slumber. Energy readings skyrocketed, shields glowing brighter than ever, and weapons systems aligned in perfect harmony. Eli could feel the ship responding directly to his thoughts, ready to act on every idea he had. The alien fleet returned, this time fully committed. Brest. Thousands of warships advanced, confident they could overpower a single human. But Eli was ready. He initiated a series of maneuvers no one could predict. The Leviathan weaved through space, shields reflecting energy beams, gravity anomalies pulling enemy ships into collisions, and holographic decoys spreading confusion across the formation.
The fleet faltered. Their calculations failed.
Their precision was meaningless against a human who adapted faster than they could analyze. Eli decided it was time to take the fight to them. He focused on the Leviathan's energy projection systems, directing beams of concentrated energy not at destroying, but at disabling enemy engines and weapons. One by one, alien ships slowed, lost power, and drifted helplessly. Others panicked, breaking formation and creating opportunities for more attacks. The galaxy was watching, whether it realized it or not. Here was a human, alone in a living warship, defying the might of a fleet that had once been considered unstoppable. Every instinct in Eli's mind, every skill he had honed, was working in perfect harmony with the Leviathan. Humans were small, fragile, and underestimated, but intelligent, inventive, and fearless. Hours passed in a blur of energy pulses, calculations, and instinctive maneuvers. Eli barely noticed the time. He was completely absorbed. But as he saw it, the alien fleet was retreating. Not entirely destroyed, but broken, confused, and aware that humans were not to be trifled with. Eli exhaled, leaning back in his seat. The Leviathan's hum softened, almost as if it were purring in satisfaction. Breath. He had done it. Humans had survived, and they had done more than survive. They had proved their ingenuity and adaptability were unmatched. But even as relief washed over him, Eli's mind raced, breaking. This was only the first encounter. The galaxy was vast,
An intelligence like his would always attract attention. Humans might be underestimated now, but the Leviathan would be known. And with that fame came risk. Every species that had seen this battle would remember. Every species that had doubted Earth would plan their next move carefully. Bah. Eli touched the main console gently, feeling the pulse of the ship beneath his fingers. "We did it," he whispered. "But this is just the beginning." The Leviathan responded with a gentle vibration, almost like a heartbeat, reassuring him. Eli understood now that this ship was not a tool or a weapon. It was a partner. Together, human ingenuity and alien technology could achieve things no species could do alone. He tapped the navigation panel, plotting a course for uncharted space. The unknown fleet might return, but Eli was ready. Humans were adaptable. Humans could improvise. Humans could turn fear into strategy and chaos into victory. As the stars stretched past the observation window, Eli felt a thrill unlike anything he had known. The Leviathan was alive. He was alive. And together they were changing the rules of the galaxy. Somewhere out there, the alien fleet would regroup. But Eli smiled, a spark of determination in his eyes. They had underestimated humans once, and they would never underestimate them again. The Leviathan pulsed gently, and Eli realized that this was only the beginning of something far greater. Proud impossible odds before. And now they were stepping into a universe that had never truly seen what they were capable of. Eli Mercer sat back, confident and alert, ready for whatever challenge the galaxy could throw at him next. He was no longer just an engineer. He was a master of the Leviathan, a human who could think in ways no alien could predict. And the galaxy would have to learn the price of underestimating humanity. And somewhere deep inside the Leviathan, Eli felt it thinking with him, aware, alive, and ready to follow the human mind into uncharted space, battles and victories yet to come. The galaxy was quiet for a moment, almost holding its breath. Eli Mercer sat on the bridge of the Leviathan, staring at the distant stars. The unknown fleet had been forced to retreat, but he knew the galaxy would not stay silent for long. Word of a human controlling the Leviathan would spread quickly. Some species would fear him. Others would want to challenge him. But Eli didn't feel fear. He felt clarity. Humans had survived, outsmarted, and now had the chance to define their place in the galaxy.
He tapped a panel, sending the Leviathan into a stable orbit near the edge of the star system.
Brash. The ship hummed softly, almost like it was breathing, a reminder that it was alive, and that it had chosen to trust him. Eli stood and walked slowly along the bridge, his mind racing with possibilities. The Leviathan was more than a warship. It was a tool of human potential, and a test of his own ingenuity. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. It was time to change that perception forever. Best Valence. The first sign that the galaxy was paying attention came sooner than expected. A transmission appeared on the Leviathan's console. It was the Galactic Council, the very beings who had given him this responsibility. Their message was formal but urgent. Eli Mercer, the unknown fleet has regrouped. Multiple systems are preparing to challenge the Leviathan. You are instructed to return for debriefing and coordination. Eli frowned. Coordination implied rules, limits, bureaucracy. And he had learned the hard way that bureaucracy often slowed humans down. He considered ignoring the message. The Leviathan was ready, and he was ready. Instead, he smiled faintly. "Let's show them what humans can do," he said. He tapped the control panel, activating the Leviathan's stealth and mobility systems. It shimmered, nearly invisible against the black backdrop of space, yet fully powered and brimming with potential energy. Eli had spent hours studying the unknown fleet's patterns, and he realized they were predictable, rigid, overconfident, and ready to respond in ways that would fail against improvisation. Humans thrived in unpredictability. The first engagement came quickly. Scout ships from the fleet approached cautiously, attempting to probe for weaknesses. Eli initiated a subtle gravitational distortion, pulling the scouts into minor collisions. Before the aliens could recover, he activated a series of energy pulses that mimicked a fleet twice the size of the Leviathan. Confused, the scouts retreated and sent warnings to their command.
Eli's grin widened.
The fleet's overconfidence was its greatest weakness. And humans knew how to exploit weaknesses. He spent the next hours improvising, experimenting with the Leviathan's systems in ways no alien could predict. He created decoys, manipulated energy flows, and even reconfigured the ship's own energy signature to mimic different types of vessels. By the time the main fleet arrived, Eli had already sown confusion and fear among their ranks. When the fleet finally approached, they expected a battle of brute force. Instead, they were met with chaos. Holographic leviathans danced across the void. Gravitational anomalies disrupted formations, and energy beams returned to strike at alien ships. For the first time, an entire fleet realized that the human mind was as dangerous as any weapon. Eli stayed calm, analyzing each movement, adapting to every attack. The Leviathan responded instantly to his thoughts, shields flexing, engines adjusting, and weapons firing in calculated patterns. He wasn't just commanding a warship, he was thinking with it, as one entity. The fleet faltered. Their attempts to concentrate fire failed, their precision meaningless against unpredictability. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and the unknown fleet's morale began to collapse. Eli realized he didn't need to destroy them. Confusion, fear, and tactical paralysis were enough. Humans could win without unnecessary destruction, and he intended to do just that. He tapped the override console once more, carefully, focusing on amplification rather than annihilation. But the Leviathan pulsed, energy flowing through every system. Gravity distortions became more precise, energy reflections more controlled, and decoy systems more convincing. He guided the fleet into traps without firing a single shot directly. By the time the engagement ended, the alien fleet was in retreat. Some ships fled toward distant systems, others surrendered, and a few tried to regroup but failed. The galaxy had just witnessed a human achieving what no other species could, controlling the largest warship in the universe and using it to outthink an entire fleet. Eli leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. The Leviathan's hum was soft now, almost like a lullaby. He realized something important. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but they were clever, adaptable, and fearless, and that made them dangerous in ways the galaxy could never predict. The transmission from the Galactic Council returned. Eli Mercer, you have exceeded expectations. The Leviathan is stable and functional under human command. Your tactics have saved countless lives and proven humans are a force to be reckoned with. Return to council chambers for recognition. Eli smiled. Recognition was nice, but it wasn't why he did this. Rest. He wanted to show the galaxy that humans could think, adapt, and win against impossible odds. He tapped the console to respond, but instead of replying formally, he sent a message directly to the fleet's retreating command. Humans will adapt. Humans will survive best. And humans will not be underestimated. The message spread across the unknown fleet, and Eli could feel the shift in the galaxy. Desk. Humans would no longer be ignored. Planets, systems, and civilizations that had once dismissed Earth would now think twice before challenging humanity. But Eli didn't stop there. He began charting new courses, sending the Leviathan into uncharted sectors. There were mysteries to explore, technologies to study, and threats to anticipate. Humanity's story in the galaxy was just beginning, and he intended to write it with boldness, intelligence, and courage. The Leviathan pulsed with life beneath him. Eli could feel its systems thinking with him, responding to his creativity and intuition. Together they were more than a human and a ship. They were a force of innovation, strategy, and adaptability. Eli looked out at the stars and imagined the possibilities. Bravo, he saw humans exploring uncharted worlds, outsmarting alien empires and leaving a mark on the galaxy that no one could erase. The Leviathan had become the perfect partner for that journey. And then he laughed quietly, a sound full of triumph and excitement. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, but now they were proving that mind, ingenuity, and courage could achieve what brute force never could. The unknown fleet would return someday, no doubt, but Eli Mercer was ready. He and the Leviathan were prepared to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. He tapped the console one last time, activating the Leviathan's faster-than-light engines. The stars stretched into streaks of light as the ship leapt into uncharted space, humanity's greatest warship carrying humanity's greatest hope. Eli Mercer stood on the bridge, heart steady, mind sharp, and eyes alight with determination. He was not just an engineer. He was a pioneer, a strategist, and a human proving that ingenuity and adaptability were the galaxy's greatest weapons. The Leviathan pulsed around him, alive and powerful, and together they moved into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, aliens who had once scoffed at humanity would remember this day. The day a human engineer stepped aboard the galaxy's largest warship, frozen at first, but ultimately triumphant. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of human ingenuity, and it would never forget. Eli Mercer smiled. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and now they had the galaxy's greatest warship, and with that, humanity's story had truly begun.